get this fixed. And let's see, if not, we may have an issue today with this. Yeah, okay. So our notes are, there's always a tech issue. So I'm going to get rid of that blink and I'll bring in something else that looks kind of nice as a backup. And we'll do the, how about the space station? Yeah, okay. So there we go. I just did some troubleshooting and I'm doing it all myself. And that's because I'm preparing. And so, okay, we're good. Welcome, everybody, to our Global Leader class today. And we have a really interesting guest who's going to join us at about 11, like last week. And I need to get you ready for that. So the plan, as always in our classes, is that we do a little bit of a review beforehand, kind of get back into the swing of things, and then we can begin to set up for the guest a little bit. I'd like to read some reflections out loud, and then we will meet our guest. And essentially, the topic today is a continuation of the idea of character. But I'm going to add a kind of dimension to that. Today is World International Academic Integrity Day. So this idea of integrity is very important. Another dimension of character. And I think that our guest today can speak to this idea.
husband को ना serious problem होगी करे जाना है
With this guest
बच्चे
right
लड़के
now,
का जोड़ के
a
ਉਹਦੀ class
really
मैं तो
important
कहीं भी serious
detail.
क्लास ही नहीं ज्वाइन करता कोई
Before I tell you that,
एक दिन
now that I
कहीं
have your attention,
कर एक
I
दिन
need to
दिन
tell you that this guest does a lot of traveling.
class बच्चे
Just got back
जाते
from New York.
वो दिन
He
जाते
was not too long ago hiking, I think, in
Hi global class
Scotland.
we take off at 10 see you
He's very much involved
yes
in an
yes yes
organization called Rotary International. We are the Rotary Global Classroom. And tomorrow night in this room, we will have a big event that I'll be hosting for World
एक भी
Polio Day
क्लास नहीं लाई
that
है
Rotary
मतलब
International
बच्चे
has
ना
every
बच्चे
year. So
पहले दिन सारे ने
this
उन्हें
whole
क्लास
idea of
करी जब
integrity,
क्या
the
अगली
Rotary clubs, Rotary International, polio, our guest who does a lot of traveling. Guess how old he is? Keep going. Let's get the microphone going because I want our guest who's maybe just starting to connect in the back, getting ready to hear this. If not, I'm going to repeat it to him. So, Ron, if you're not hearing this already, you will hear it shortly. But okay, so let's get going. And here's okay. So, who's the first one to speak today? Is it Carrie Ann? You're alive. Yeah. Okay. And Maria. Okay, I'll give you a mic, and then Connor and Juanita can share one. So let's start this. This is going to be very, very interesting.
I'm
I
so
just told
pressed.
you about
I'm
this
so
guest,
pressed.
okay, that's coming at 11 a.m. He's very involved in the Rotary clubs, travels a lot, well spoken, good energy. So, how old do you think he is? Who said 30? Me. Okay,
30.
Carrie Ann said 30. And what's your name again? You're Ivy Martland, right? Ivy, great. Nice to. Have you been in person yet? No, good to see you. Ivy, how old do you think our guest is? Just based on the little that I told you.
47.
47. Let's keep going. Connor, how old do you think our guest is based on what I just told you?
Oh, let's go 28.
28?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. You mean he traveled, just got back from New York, was in Scotland, involved in, the Rotary clubs with a lot of volunteer work, very active, and even is helping to set up an award for the Global Classroom called the Rotary Global Classroom Human Impact award, Impact on the Environment, for a young person anywhere in the world who's doing something to help the environment. So, Juanita, keep going. How old do you think he is?
I'm 60.
60. No, young. Maria?
I think maybe the way you described him, maybe like he's retired or like in his 80s,
Higher than 80?
like 80s, like retirement
Yes.
wise.
Yes. Higher than 80. I know. Ivy's, just for all of you who are watching right now, live in the recording, you can't see Ivy's face. She's just scrunched up her face like, huh? Not possible. So, Ivy, how old do you think the guest might be?
94.
93.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Today you're going to be meeting a 93-year-old human being on planet Earth who is very much alive and very much involved. Now, I've invited him to be our guest because I think that he displays something very vital about leadership that may not be so apparent. But I would like to just make sure that all of you understand what this quality is. It's about character, it's about integrity. And so I'd like to introduce you to a word that's going to be something we will be exploring in much greater detail after Reading Week. That's coming soon. But I'm going to introduce you to this, and it's called resilience. Resilience or endurance. So it's really important, I think, inspiring, but just vitally important that you understand that a person who leads does not ever give up. Or maybe when he or she decides to give up, it's to get some rest and take care of themselves so they can keep going and going and going and can live a long, long time. So that's my hope for all of you, that you will learn from Ron's example as you meet a 93-year-old person who is traveling more than we all are right now and who is working on an award, the Global Leader Award, Human Impact Award, that will be given out to young people around the world. So he's very committed to the next generation as well. He's a volunteer for an organization that's done so much around the world to help those who are ill or who are suffering, and that's called Rotary International. So there's a lot that we'll be able to explore with him. You're going to see him, up here. And I actually told him there was no need to drive out here this morning, even though he could have. He's in Toronto. He's just going to come in online. And it wasn't because he can't drive. It's because he's too busy. He said, if I don't have to drive out, good, I can do some other things today. So just raise a hand. And for those of you online as well, just put in the live chat, have you ever met a person in their 90s who is making this kind of contribution and has this kind of good health and energy? Have you ever, Ivy? Carrie Ann? Connor? Juanita? Maria? Yeah? No.
Do dogs count?
What's that?
Dogs?
Do
Dogs.
dogs do dogs?
Like animals?
Yeah. Well, you have to multiply by 7, right?
I mean, there's different
For
species.
dog years.
Yeah.
Yes, we could count any kind of. I think he's going to beat any animal, including dolphins and elephants that live quite a while too. So, do you know that not too long ago, the great mayor of Mississauga here, Hazel McCallion, she turned 102, I think it was. And she actually stood at a press conference with our Premier, Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, just about a year ago to commemorate the naming of a highway, I think, after her or some big thing. And she was 101. Oh, good. Dami's here, so we can get the notes going. You want to head over there, Dami, and I'll excuse me. Let's people give a little bit of a close up here of the gentleman who's going. There he goes. Dami's just arrived, and Dami, do you want to get the cards going? And we need to write some things down. We've already started, and Dami will put this down. And the word that we need to write now, that is the critical quality that we're going to be exploring with Ron today about character. What's that word that Dami should write down? That we just resilience. Thank you, Connor. Resilience. 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 Way to go. And I'll try once more and see if we're getting the notes up here. We have a little bit of a breakdown. If not, then we'll just have to live with this. But hold on, let me see if I can do this. It might come up over here. No, we're still okay. We've got a problem with the notes today coming up on the dashboard. So for those of you watching the dashboard, you won't see them up here, but we'll just have to see them on that camera. All right, but I'll bring it back here and we'll explain. Okay. So for all of you watching here right now, I think you know sort of the drill, but on the dashboard right now, you can see that in the top right hand corner is the YouTube live stream going right now. Okay, and there's a latency of about 10 seconds. So we're on camera 1 at this moment, which is that camera. And then I can switch that camera just once, that's all, to position 2, and that takes it over to Dami. Okay, so just so you can see this in action. But you'll see it on the video conferencing system first, just below, that's Toria, and then in about 5 seconds, you'll see it on YouTube because there's latency of a few seconds. Okay, so there we go. So essentially, that's how people are going to be seeing online Dami's notes today, but I want to keep the camera over here. And it just means that for those of you here in person, you can't see the notes there. Okay, that's all. And same with the recording, but you can turn your head or we'll get Dami to we'll give Dami a microphone and he can tell us what's there, okay? Okay, and then just in the lower portion, that's our Vimeo channel. That's the long-standing Global Class Vimeo channel where everything kind of began with the Global Class about 14 years ago. And then these are our DC Connect up there in the tabs, the map of the world, the space station live. And I have some other, is this Paula? Hello, Paula. Come on in. Oh, you look good. I didn't recognize you. I thought, whoa, who's that? Paula got nice new hair today. And so I'm kind of going on a tangent here for a moment as a way of updating you on something, but we'll come back in a moment to Ron, and then I'll proceed. I meant to tell you all of this at the beginning in the sort of what's happening section, but we got going. So we're just taking a break. We'll get back to setting up Ron in a moment, okay? In 2025, the World Expo is going to be holding their big exhibition in Osaka, Japan. And it's a World Expo is a every 2 years an event where World Expo is held in a different country. It's like the Olympics of technology. And it's a very, very good place to display new developments in tech. And without getting into too much detail, I just wanted to let you know that we're planning now to make a presentation there in Osaka in Japan in 2025 about what the global classroom, Rotary Global Classroom is. And I think we're gonna be pretty sensational in what we can display. So I wanted you all to know first, I want to thank you all again for being part of this amazing experiment in education where I believe we are creating the new classroom for humanity with good tech that others will follow eventually in some ways, but it doesn't matter. All that matters right now is how all you react. And I can tell from the reflections that I'm reading and from what people say that the work we put into this space over the last years is starting to really get more and more attention. And I think that we're going to be ready to do something pretty awesome in Osaka, Japan. And that is that we have created with all of you the first multimedia classroom for humanity. This is it. It's happening here. Nobody's doing this, and we're just getting started with this. It's the idea that we're bringing all the digital media into a classroom now, and we can use all of that stuff that's out there to help get you more educated. And it's in person. And it's not in person. And it's recorded, and it's on YouTube, and anybody can participate in it, and it doesn't break down. The tech is good. That's what we're doing here with your help. And I hope that we can be able to stand up in Japan and say, at last, in a classroom, the educators have gotten ahead of Hollywood. They've gotten ahead of television. They've gotten ahead of social media and Instagram and TikTok and all of those platforms that have the tech that tend to be way ahead of what's in a classroom. We need to reverse this. Otherwise, the world cannot interact. And we will have more, I think, conflict and war. And it's not a good place that we're in right now on planet Earth, if you look at what's happening. So you may hear me talking about that, about Japan in 2025. And Mayreen, whom you met, and her family are going to be a part of that. And if any of you want to be a part of that presentation, as we're getting ready for it, just let me know. But it's just starting. Okay? It's just starting to get prepared. So let's make sure that we're on track. I'm going to kind of paddle back now to, the main lake that we're in with today's class, and we're moving to, our little journey where we're going to land on an island somewhere and have a good time. We're going to learn things together. But I just took an interesting creek, but we got to come back, okay? And we've got to come back to this idea of resilience, this idea of endurance, and this incredible person you're going to meet in 30 minutes who's 93 years old and who's doing so much at his age. So let me just check in with all of you and see any questions, anything that you'd like to review before I do a little review with all of you from last week and make sure that everybody is sort of up to speed on everything that's coming in the next weeks. Anything, Paula, that you want to bring to the class's attention or to my attention? You don't have to, but I just want to make sure. Okay. So Paula's on board. Paula's with us today, which is great. Ivy's with us. Carrie Ann is with us. Connor's here. Juanita's here. Maria's here. And Dami's on the notes. That's great. So they're on board. And then online, synchronously, we have, let's see, it looks like Navpreet is there. Could you, is it Sukbal?
It's
Singh?
Sukh
Yeah.
Singh.
Could you give us the correct pronunciation of your name, please?
Sukhpal.
Sukbal.
Yes.
Thank you. And then I see, is it San Janbon? Or San? Could you give us correct pronunciation? Sanjan? Okay. Well, anyways.
It's Sanjana Bain.
Oh, could you please repeat that?
Sanjana.
Sanjana.
Yes.
Okay, great. So Sanjana, and then let's see who else. Oh, that's it. And then there are all the students watching the recording later. So hi, everybody, from all of us. And,
Hello, good morning.
Excellent. Dami, can I trust that you'll stay on top of the live chat too if you see anything there? I set it up for you. Okay. Well then, let's in the next 15 or 20 minutes before Ron joins us and we really explore this idea of resilience and endurance and integrity with a kind of a wizard. This is, oh, Ron, I hope you don't mind me saying this if you're there right now, but I will say it later. This is the real Gandalf. You ever wanted to meet Gandalf? Do you know who Gandalf is? I think. Okay, well, just a second. Connor, why don't you explain to Juanita who Gandalf is?
It's a character from Lord of the Rings. I didn't really watch it too much, but I know who the character is.
He's an older, long-bearded, amazing wizard, a wise man, a very wise man. And I like to think that in this class, even though it's all about youth, we have a lot to learn from the elderly too, don't we? If we can bring them in. So, all right. Unless there are any questions, doesn't look like there are any questions, I would like to tell you about what's coming over the next weeks here in the Global Classroom and in terms of a few other things. And then perhaps one of you can read your second reflection and maybe Juanita can, because Juanita's was pretty good. So not yet, okay? Just get it teed up, all right? Your second reflection, get it teed up. And I want to show you a few things, and I'm going to try and stick handle this really well today. So let me come over here to the, just a second. This is the Rotary Global Classroom website. We have a website here, okay? So I wanted you to be introduced to this. And here you will see, coming up tomorrow night, World Polio Day 2023 will be happening in this room. And here are all the guests and people that will be joining us live. But I want to tell you more about what's coming in terms of events that will be taking place in the Global Classroom. So I just wanted to introduce you to this idea that there is a web page in the Global, on Durham College, called the Rotary Global Classroom, where you can see things that have been happening in the Rotary Global Classroom. This is very early on. We're still building this. But I want to show you something here that is also coming. After Reading Week, which is next week, and after you receive your midterm, which you will get next week, we're heading into the second part of the semester. And there's going to be a lot going on here. Things are going to pick up speed. In fact, I've had to tweak a little bit some of the assessment, so I will tell you about the change I made to the first assignment. So there's some changes that have happened, and I need to get your agreement to this, okay? And I will explain. But first, let me tell you about some of the classes. So, on right after Reading Week, November the 8th, Anna is finally going to come from Global Guardian, young woman who had done so much to help people in Ukraine. Madison will be joining us the next week. She used to direct the Student Leadership Institute here, and she's now doing her PhD at Ontario Tech. And it has a big mental health component. She's doing a lot of original research in mental health and social media. She's going to do a presentation and talk about leadership. Then you're going to meet our president, Don Lavisa. And that is going to be what's called DC Talks. And that's going to be a class we will have on November the 22nd. He and I will co-host it here. And he is going to be bringing in about 3 or 4 really interesting Durham College graduates to talk about generative AI and how we can be using it in a much more constructive, positive way. Generative AI. That's going to happen here as well. And then there's going to be probably 2 more guests coming up until December. We might even have, we will see, we might even have a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist who who right now is a journalist in residence here at the campus from, I think it's Kenya. And he was involved in some very important journalistic work back home in investigating the government there. And he won with his team the Pulitzer Prize in journalism, which is maybe the most prestigious prize in the world in journalism. And he's now the journalist in residence here. And he may join us in December. You're going to meet lots of global leaders, interesting people coming through the next half of the semester. But I'm especially excited about this class with Dawn. And this is the class page on the Rotary Global Classroom website. And here are the guests that are now starting to populate this page. Communications and Marketing is putting this page together. And these are the individuals. You can see them up on the dashboard right now. And so I just wanted to let you know that there will likely be a guest coming each Wednesday for longer than the guests have been coming this half of the semester. They'll probably join us at the beginning of the class, and we'll have a whole class with them, because there's some good guests. But so there's Ron today, 93-year-old, great activist, and you know, fabulous energy. Anna will be coming the 8th, and then the 15th. Madison, the 22nd, will be Dawn and myself for DC Talks, or what I often call the Global Graduate class. The idea is that we're helping you in this classroom and at the college become global graduates. And do you want to write that down in the notes for us, Dami? Global graduate. We are really taking seriously this idea of leadership at the college. Together, we're leading the way. And our president has built a lot of great new things around campus, including this $50 million center. And he's retiring. And it will be a great chance to meet him. And he often shares personal details about how he came to the presidency of the college. So you're going to meet the leader of the college, too. And he's quite a global leader before he leaves. He and I have hosted several classes, so we're quite used to doing this together. Finally, in a little bit of review, I just want to hand out a few cards to all of you that I forgot last week to do. And this was Repair Cafe. Because remember Alvin? Well, I meant to do this, and I didn't. So this is for all of you who might want to think about getting more involved in the repair, or at least thinking about the Repair Cafe. Dami, I'll put this over here. Is this yours here? Or, okay, so this is for you. Okay. Oh, great. So that's something from last week. And little news flash for you. If you look at the dashboard right now, you will see a live picture of the International Space Station going across Newfoundland at this very moment. Take a look at the dashboard. Right now, 417.9 kilometers into the sky, there is one of the great achievements in human technology, the International Space Station, that Chris Hadfield, our astronaut in Canada, lived on for up to 6 months. He was the captain of the space station. He's back here on Earth. And right now, the space station, its high-definition camera, is looking down at the planet as it orbits planet Earth. It takes it 90 minutes to go around the planet. And right now, it's going over Newfoundland. Take a look. Oh, now it's moved to the North Atlantic, because if you look at the map of the world, what do you see right next to Newfoundland? The North Atlantic Ocean. Right now, the space station has left Newfoundland, moving at, I guess it would be today, 7.6683 kilometers per second. You want to get the miles per hour on kilometers per hour? Multiply that. And you will see that essentially the space station speed is basically moving so that it just went from Pickering to Oshawa in about a second. Stick this in your mind. Cosmic speed, planetary speed. One of the benefits in this class that we do in becoming global leaders is we think planet-wide. That means you open yourself up to what's called global scale. Can you write that down, Damien? Global scale. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm giving you a little sort of geography, astronomy, planetary lesson to help you build that muscle in your global leader part of you that can deal with what's called velocity. You know what velocity is? Want to write that down? Velocity. Damien, what does velocity mean? Velocity. V-E-L-O-C-I-T-Y. Absolutely. Thank you, Carrie Ann. Speed. Velocity is speed. Have you ever thought about how fast everything is in front of you on your screen? How information flies around the world? How fast everything is in the world today, so much so that it can seem overwhelming? Well, we've got to get stronger. We've got to get our minds around the fact that things are moving at breakneck speed around the planet. There's a space station. It's called technology. There was a Canadian who was living there. And that thing is moving so fast that it just went from Pickering to Oshawa in a second or less. 7.6 or 7.7 kilometers per second. This is planetary global scale. You have to be able to think in this way where you're not afraid of speed, where you're not running away from it and going, oh God, you know, I got to slow it all down. I can't stand this. I'm going to go live off the grid somewhere. I'm going to go to the woods by a river and I'm going to shut everything down. Good luck. That's a nice holiday. But if you're going to be part of the world as it is and as it's moving, you have to be ready for this incredible, accelerated, technological world that we're living in. And I probably am not telling you what you don't know, right, Dami? It's just that it's kind of stressful sometimes, isn't it? So I want to help you deal with that. Great. Okay, so that's what's coming. Some of the classes and let's see what else. I think we're going to have time for about 5 minutes to have someone read their reflection out loud, and then Ron's going to join us, and then we're going to really start to understand something about this idea of resilience, endurance, longevity, and maybe you want to find out from him something about how do you live into your 90s and continue to make a contribution. I'm assuming that all of you want to live a long time. Yes? Good. Okay. So why don't you come up and, or actually, no. Yeah, come up so they can see you. Okay. And then I'll put this up here. Bring your laptop up here and come sit on the high chair and bring your laptop. That way everybody can see your face. And Juanita's going to read out her second reflection, and it will take me too long to put it up there. So you have it in front of you. Yeah, do you want to get, and you've got, I'll turn that on for you. Okay, good. So let's see. While you're finding, I might be able to find it. Give me a second. I kind of teed up the reflections here. There's Dami, Anna, Nishan, Mandeep, Nick, Sophia, Carrie-Ann, Sanjan, Hassan. Good. If Hassan were here, I'd have him read his out because he didn't have a chance last week. Is this you here? No. Okay. Which? Okay. Is it up? Or maybe I'm. There it is. Yep. Good. I got it. Here we go. You can read it from there if you want. Okay. So Juanita's going to read. Come on in. Juanita's going to read hers out loud. And I just want to remind all of you that I want to speak with you briefly afterwards about how we're going to change a little bit of the first assignment and others coming. But for now, let's hear from a really good student reflection. Please go ahead.
Our class on October 4th was great. I enjoyed our guests and their engagements with us. We discussed many topics in that class, varying from volunteer work as a global leader to the value of our faith in the journey to becoming a global leader. If I were to talk about the many things that stood out to me, I would write beyond the word count. So I will stick to just one thing that stood out to me the most, which is the statement that Lon made during class: the change can start with you. We got to a point in the class where we spoke about the possibility of leadership stemming out of our various cultures. To this topic, all three Nigerians in the class, myself included, mentioned how leadership generally operates in our home country. And although I have always known this, saying it out loud to people, especially foreigners, really discouraged me. The matter of leadership in Nigeria is a sensitive topic to most Nigerians, as it weighs heavy in our hearts. Most times, if not every, the quality of leadership in a country is what determines the well-being of that country. And unfortunately, Nigeria has been made a victim of poor and ineffective leadership. I have had the perspective that someone will come one day to raise Nigeria back to her former glory. But truly, what if that leader takes much more time to come than we anticipated, or even worse, never comes at all? I now understand that instead of waiting for that desirable leader who checks all boxes, we Nigerians can begin to work on things ourselves. We can be the change that we want to see, and can do so by laying aside every weight and corrupt tradition that lingers from our past. I definitely disagree with the statement that my fellow Nigerians said about our problems being in our culture and that making it impossible for a change to occur. I don't believe it is true. Change is an action that anyone can ignite, and it can and will start with us.
Thank you. Maybe give her a hand. I mean, yeah. Can you stay on the chair for a minute? What do you think, Carrie-Ann? Pretty good? Yeah. And why do you think it's very good? Like, what do you think that's working so well there?
It's deep because amidst what's happening or the past, she sees herself as a global leader that can be the change, which is good.
And it's not the culture.
It's not about checking all the boxes, but just doing something.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Dammy over on, we don't have a mic for you yet. We'll get to, Maria, can you take Dammy the microphone? Is it there? Okay. Just walk it over. He can come and get it. Because, Dammy, you ready for a little bit of a tough question? Okay. You're Nigerian, right? Went to the US, now in Canada. Were you the one who said that culture is such that it makes it impossible? And no, okay.
It was the Shay guy.
Ah, he's not here today. Okay, so we will not draw anybody in who can't defend himself or herself. Okay, so that would be most unfair. Yeah, I kind of had a feeling Dammy wouldn't say that, given of the way he thinks. But is there anything you want to add to?
I see where he's coming from, though, to be honest with you, but I do not agree with his statement.
So you agree that it can happen with you or it can happen with Juanita?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do agree with that. Yeah.
Great. And you also gave that really good example last week when we had that discussion about science and, talking about Earth being flat or round and how you have come to really understand something about science. Allowed you.
Very
Very good. Okay. Is there a question from someone online? No? Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to say about Juanita's reflection other than the fact that it's very well written? I think it's fair for me to have said early on that this was definitely written by a human being, not a machine. And the human being is sitting right here. And you're not pulling our leg here. Like, did you get a Chat GPT to write this?
No.
No, you didn't, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. There's another word about leadership that really is important. It's called authenticity. Don't we want people who are authentic? Yeah. Authentic. Right here. Thank you, Juanita. Ivy, anything you want to add before I tell you something about what's coming, and then Ron's going to join us shortly, okay?
I liked her reflection because it just shows that everybody, like, we're all people, and it doesn't matter if you can't summarize everything into one. I don't know the word that I'm trying to say, but yeah, I like her reflection because it just shows that everyone is individual and to not be
Like dependent on one person to make the
Yeah,
change.
yeah.
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 Exactly.
So we all have it in us to be change makers, if you will.
Yeah.
And what sorts of qualities, though, based on what we've been exploring so far this semester, what sorts of qualities does a person who is going to be a change maker need, would you say, Ivy? Just based on what you've been hearing in the class so far this semester. One quality, even so today, one critical quality that you want to have, or maybe you do have, you just didn't know it until you said it.
I don't know the word that I'm trying to use, but like basically having your own thoughts, not letting people like affect your thoughts.
Independence.
Independence, yes.
Yeah, and then the courage
Courage
to
is a good one.
actually defend your independence too.
I think that people have a hard time like standing up for what's right because they fear that they might look stupid in a time, but then when progress is made after, you're so much more proud of yourself for standing up for what is right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that independence is important to change.
Thank you, Ivy. Dammy had something he had to go deal with. So I'm going to take his place for a moment, and I'm just going to write this on the board to make sure we get this here, okay? And he's got some very creative handwriting. Mine's not so nice, but independence, okay, is really important. So that will be in the notes. Okay, I am going to check to see if Ron's in the class because he said he had to leave early today. He has something.
Yep, I'm
pressing.
here, Ron.
Okay,
here.
great. He's here.
Mhm.
Okay, so let's bring Ron in, and then I will tell you at the end today about the different structure for assignment and reflection. I'm not surprising you with anything, by the way. I can just tell you briefly now. I'm just going to be removing the first assignment and adding a little bit more to the weighting for the reflections in the second half of the semester, okay? So I'll explain later. I wouldn't put more work on you. I'm just changing the weighting slightly for things. That's all. I'll explain. Okay, but so let me bring Ron in, and Ron, are you able to share your camera right now?
I don't. Well,
there you are.
I,
Okay, hold
I
on.
can see you. Yeah.
Yep. I'm going to make you full screen for everybody.
Okay.
And they can, just a second. Here comes Ron.
Hi, everyone.
Okay. So Everybody, I want to welcome you to, and I'll just speak for like a few seconds, and then we're going to start. I'm going to welcome you to somebody I really admire. But I'm not going to say anything more. I've already talked about him. I would like you to look for a moment right now at the picture. You're looking at a 93-year-old human being who is so busy that he has to leave the class early today. He sent me a 93-year-old human being who is tech savvy. Writes me
I'm
email.
not sure about that.
Okay, well, anyways.
I use technology. I'm not sure. I would never claim to be tech savvy.
Okay, well, so let's start. Okay, we have Ron for about 25 minutes. He has to go at 11:25, and then we'll conclude. But Ron, is there anything you would like to say to the students here? You're right now you're live in person with me.
Yeah.
Paula is here. Ivy, Carrie-Ann, Mujib is here. And Connor, Juanita, Maria, and Dami just had a little emergency. That's the
Yep.
in-person group. Then online, you can see in the icons there, there's several other students online. And then, Ron, there are many others who just watch the recordings of this class. So essentially, you're reaching now with the recordings about 41 to 42 students.
Great.
Okay. So welcome, Ron, and we're going to talk a lot about this idea of resilience with you and your, where you are in your life. But is there anything you'd like to say to all of the young people here?
Well, first of all, I just enjoyed the past 15 minutes of your dialogue, your interaction there, and I must compliment the students of today how much more aware they are of global issues than when I was a student of their age. Now, that goes back a hell of a long time, but the world continues to be round, it turns around, and there are so many things happening in the world, the awareness and bringing together people such as this group you have here from different parts of the world, I think is so important in helping us understand each other. One of the issues I see in the world is that there is too little understanding. And without being particularly critical, I find that lack of understanding is especially pronounced in our friends south of the border. Because that's a huge country, huge resources, huge political issues that maybe they're so engrossed with what's happening domestically, they're not as aware of things internationally as you are, or even I here in Canada. I spend a lot of my time internationally, and I'm occasionally appalled at how much focus there is on United States interests rather than global interest or an awareness of other people's culture, problems, and so forth. So I congratulate you, Lon. I congratulate your students on just airing these different views and perspectives, because that is what we need around the world. More and more people should engage in the kind of dialogue, the interaction, which I see in this classroom. I'm privileged to be with you for a few minutes.
Thank you. And probably we all thank you. I don't want to say much, really. I've talked a lot already, and I want the students to engage with someone like this. So, guys, take your time. If you feel you're shy or whatever, just remember you just listen to somebody who's 7 years away from being 100 years old.
6 years, as a matter of fact. It's my birthday on Saturday. I'm going to be 94.
Oh, Ron, you're not serious.
Yeah, yep. We have a Rotary District conference on Saturday in Oshawa, and I'm going to be hoisting the ninth. As I often say to my friends, I'm in the middle of the ninth innings, and I'm just hoping there'll be extra time.
Yeah. Congratulations, Ron. Congratulations. Ivy, do you have a let's move the microphone around. And for those of you online, why don't you put your questions, if you have them, into the live chat and we'll take them up. But for now, we're going to move around in person. And let me just come back here for a moment and see if I can do a little stick handle here on that. Okay, good. So we can see the others right now. And Ivy, let me just do this. There we go. Okay, good. So now we can see. So everybody is now seeing Ron full screen on the recording here online, and they can hear us here, and they can see us in a little window in the top right of the screen. Okay, so everything's on Ron right now. Do you have anything you want to say, Ivy?
2 questions. So my first question being, what would you say that helped you live a long and healthy life? And my second question is, how old do you feel mentally?
Great question.
Okay. First of all, I enjoy life. I have always worked at things I enjoyed. When I was studying at university for my PhD and my MBA, I enjoyed what I was doing. And throughout my career, I have enjoyed what I do. And whenever I found I wasn't enjoying my work, I said, it's time to quit, go somewhere else. So having fun. And so enjoying the work I do, because work consumes a large part of my time, or has over the years. Relationships. I'm so fortunate in having a loving family. 3 kids, 11 grandchildren, and they all, in fact, 1 great grandson now. They all love each other. They're supportive of each other. And many, many years ago, when my wife and I were traveling and the kids were young, we always said, if anything were to happen to us, if the plane were to go down in the middle of the ocean, we didn't make it, the kids would support each other. That kind of relationship. So then, other than that, I've tried to keep well, exercise regularly, eat the right things, manage my weight, have annual checkups, and all those other things. But really, the state of mind, enjoying what I was doing, was probably the most important thing of all. And then, what was the second question you had?
Good. Go on.
Oh, so my second question was, how old do you feel mentally right now?
Oh, yeah. Well, people often ask me how old I am. They shouldn't, but they do. I say, well, there are 2 ages. There's the chronological age, which happens to turn the clock at 94. But then, as I said, there's a biological and a mental age. First of all, how old's your body? Have you looked after it? How well is your ticker? All your other organs and so forth. And mentally. And there is a test you can do. You go onto one of these wellness sites, and I clock out somewhere around 75, 77 years of age. So, and I feel about that too. And many of my friends are in that age group, mid to late 70s. My wife died about 6 years ago, and my current partner is about 15 years younger than I am, and we feel very, very contemporary, both of us.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank
Ivy, let's keep going with questions. Of course, there's lots I would love to say, but this is a remarkable human being, and now we've learned he's going to be 94 on Saturday. So, Connor, go ahead.
Ron, how are you?
Great.
Just one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, in your years of travel and wisdom gained, what have you found that brings culture and people together the most? And on the opposite side of that scale, what deteriorates that and pulls people apart the most?
Yeah. Working together will bring people together. Let me quote an example. I'm heavily involved in water and sanitation around the world. And one of the areas of the world where water is a crisis is the Lake Turkana area in northern Kenya. And some of you may be familiar with it. Well, a number of years ago, one of my friends happened to be Jewish, great friend, Pippi Geiger, Giddy Piper, and said, we want to bring together the young Israeli kids and the Palestinian kids. So he said, but let's get away from here. Let's get away from the Middle East. So he launched a water program in the Lake Turkana area, set up a camp there, and invited Israeli kids, Palestinian kids, to work on addressing the problem of how to provide water to those desperate people in the Lake Turkana area. And once they got away from the local pressures, once they got away from the influence of their parents, influence of the local media, and so forth, those kids worked together to address a common problem. And it wasn't as if somebody was Jewish, somebody was Palestinian, antagonism, which we see all the time right now. They worked together on a common problem. And I found that, and more generally, that was one very good example that immediately comes to mind. People work together on a common problem. They will often forget the things that divide them and focus on the things that bring them together.
Wow, this is a fabulous example. Keep going, and I'm so glad you brought up the war right now in the Middle East. We will talk about that, but in the context that you've brought it up, we couldn't ask for a better example. And by the way, Turkana, Lake Turkana, is historically very important in human history. It's where important bones and fossils have been found of very early humans who migrated from that part of the world into the rest of the world and then began to populate. Humans, millions of years ago, all go back to Africa. And we came out of Africa, but that's world history, because I teach world history. But thank you, Ron, for this. Connor, great information. Whoa, keep going. Yeah.
Say thank you for that great example, and that was awesome. Thank you, Ron.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's keep going. If there,
that was one example, by the way, where water or the lack of water brought people together. Unfortunately, there are too many examples in the world where water, instead of bringing peace, can create conflict. That is one of the sad situations, right? In Iraq, for example, right now, the farmers get much of their water from the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, and a series of canals run from those rivers through the farming community. Well, of course, the person who is closest to the river has the choice of how much water he or she will take. And the poor guy at the end of the canal is, he's the last one to breakfast. And unfortunately, there's a lot of tension created. And only by people coming together along that canal, only on agreeing how to divide up that particular resource, are we going to get peace. And there are so many transboundary issues in the world of water. I think immediately of Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt, and the Nile, and the problems that were created by the new dam in Ethiopia, and the dam on either the Euphrates or the Tigris in Turkey is denying water from the downstream in Iraq and so forth. So I work a lot of the time in water, sanitation, and hygiene, and unfortunately, where water should be able to bring peace, unfortunately, too often, it's a dividing agency among people.
Thank you, Ron. Great. By the way, I can add little historical sort of asides here, because I teach this. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers is what we call the cradle of civilization.
Yeah.
Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers, which is where civilization got its head start. The rest of the world began there.
And if you want to see it in dramatic form, go and watch the opera Nabucco about Nebuchadnezzar and Babylon.
The great God King. Guys, ask, talk. This is such good information you're getting in an inspiring format. So, who else? Juanita, is anything you'd like to address? And go ahead.
Hi, Ron.
Hi.
I wanted to ask, like, since you've been several places, you've traveled and everything, how did it feel? Was it easy? Like, I'm sure you would have gotten tired. I don't know, but if you were tired, like, how did it feel? Where did you draw your strength from? You know.
Well, first of all, I sleep well on planes. And much of my time, if I'm going to Africa, Africa is probably the place I've gone to most often. I fly across the Atlantic to Brussels and make a connection. And going from Toronto to Brussels, I can get about 5 or 6 hours sleep. I don't worry about eating or drinking on the plane. I get my sleep so that when I arrive at my destination, I'm fairly refreshed. And so often when I arrive at the destination, I have to go almost immediately into meetings and appear half intelligent and at least awake. So that's it. But also the other question generally about travel, most of the time when I'm working in other countries, I'm working with other members of a Rotary Club. We're working on some humanitarian issue, usually around water, sanitation, hygiene, education, literacy, health, or some forth. And I'm usually with the local people. So I'm immediately plunged into local culture. I'm not visiting the country as a tourist, coming and taking selfies and then going on to the next destination. I'm there for several days or weeks at a time, very often living with the local people, eating with the local people, doing what they do. And so that has made it relatively easy. And I've been fortunate. I've been in one or two areas where there was some political upheaval. I remember having a meeting out at the airport in Cairo at the same time with the demonstrations in Tahrir Square downtown. This was at the time of the revolution some 12 years ago. Got out safely. I was also working in Mali. Cote d'Ivoire, when there was an election and the election was contested. It broke out into fighting. And I think I got the last flight out of Abidjan at that particular time. But again, I was with friends all the time. Similarly, in Mali, I've done a lot of work in Mali, a country which right now, of course, is a political basket case. But there again, working with local Rotary friends, and they are the local people. They know the safe places to go, the places not to go, and so forth. So I find the most important thing of all is in any of those countries, be with the local people, do what the local people are doing. I don't want to take Canada with me, even though I'm Canadian now. I don't take Canadian values and culture with me all the time. I try to absorb as much as possible of the local culture and so forth. I do speak French, which helps me in Francophone Africa, but most of the time I'm working in English. And of course, in much of Africa, East Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, English is the second language. So we usually get along fairly well in lingual terms.
Excellent. Any other questions as we move things along? We have another 5 minutes or so. It's just a very quick introduction to Ron. Maybe we'll have him back at some point when we can do this for a longer period. But Carrie Ann, please go ahead. Yep.
So, what is the main driving force that propels you to continue to serve even at this stage in life?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's probably my background. I was brought up in England during the Depression era, during the 30s. We had to be frugal, though I was fortunate. My father was a bank manager, so we didn't suffer terribly, but we certainly didn't have a great deal of affluence. And then the Second World War came. There was rationing, privation. There were a lot of things we didn't have. And probably because of it, and my partner tells me, you can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy. And even to this day, that frugality persists. An example recently, I was going to the airport, and I think one or two of my kids had dropped by and shooting the breeze, and I said, I better go now. I'm going to get the subway and the Union Pearson Express. And my daughter looked at me and said, Dad, why don't you get Uber? I said, it costs money. Dad, you can't take it with you. The kind of thing those ingrained habits of frugality and that awareness. And I understand I wouldn't say you understand it well. One can never understand it well. The privations in the
Yeah.
developing part of the world, sub-Saharan Africa particularly. And every time I go there, I see another need. And I recognize that we in Canada are so singularly fortunate in what we have, that if I'm able to help those people in one way or another, maybe financially, but in more of the ways than that, it's helping them lead a project, helping them plan something, helping them manage an issue, and it's a source of satisfaction to be able to help these people. But it's hard to say what keeps me going. My partner says, Denham, you've got to learn to say no sometimes.
Ron, would you say that a really important quality that you are talking about right now, and that is a really important quality of somebody who's going to lead, is that they're ready to serve others? Service.
Yeah,
is
well,
important.
exactly.
Your needs are less important, and so many of our leaders today, sometimes it seems like it's their needs that are more important than ours. But actually, a really good leader is one who reverses that and says, I serve the people whom I represent, not the other way around. Do you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. If you look at some great leaders in the world, Gandhi, for example, Martin Luther King, they served others. Yeah. And of course, a leader can only be a leader through acceptance of that leadership by other people. If they don't accept that leadership, then he isn't truly a leader. He might be a dictator or an autocrat or something like that, but not a true leader in the spiritual sense of the word.
Yeah. Service.
Yeah, and of course in Rotary, our motto
Maria,
is
real question here. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah,
Service,
in Rotary, our theme is service above
Service.
self.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Maria. I'm studying myself in the education of journalism and getting my master's degree in politics. I'm right now. I'm experiencing criticism through sports and education. How do I stand up myself through women in sports and through jealousy from men and women?
By the way, you can turn and say hi because that's the camera. Okay,
Yeah.
she's the one with the hoodie.
Yep.
Right now. Okay,
Yep.
Ron, you can see her. Okay,
I couldn't quite hear it too clearly, Lon.
Maria, say it again. Okay.
Right now I'm studying journalism, sports education, arts, and getting my master's degree in politics. How do I stand up to myself in politics as a woman and also not get criticized by sports education and by like players and like through the community?
So how do you stand up for yourself as a human being?
Yeah, as a woman in
man.
sports.
Okay.
As people are like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You don't know what you're doing. You're not a sports photographer. Like, I'm good at it. I chose to do it. It's not your problem.
Good question.
Why are you hating me on doing something that I like doing? It's my job. So how do I stand up to myself?
How do you stand up for yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, not stand up to yourself.
How do I keep the community silent and just view themselves that I have the authorities and the privilege to work in Canada? In the United States.
That's a very, very good question. First of all, I have certain principles that I live by, and I don't court popularity. I'm not popular with a lot of people because I speak my mind, and I've got sort of a moral compass. My church has helped me over the years in that sense. I'm quite active in my church. It happens to be a Christian church, but that's neither here nor there. A body of faith and beliefs which helps provide some sort of moral compass. I just have these principles. Just this morning, I was corresponding with somebody who wanted to make a change, and I said, I appreciated their direction. I said, but I'm not quite sure that's consistent with the basic theme and the mission we have. In other words, I've got these guidelines that this. I guess you might. I hate to use the word moral compass. It's overplayed these days, but certain values which I can stand up for, and I can disagree with people, but I try to disagree as pleasantly as possible. I won't take issue with a person. I will usually question their particularly their point of view. And so I respect the person as such, but have you thought about this as an alternative way? Just helping open their eyes, I suppose. That's I hadn't thought about this until you asked the question, but that's probably the way I operate.
How do you stand up? Do you want to?
And also, I'm dealing with like a lot of jealousy through women and men. And how do I deal with that in that circumstances through my safety in the future?
I think it comes back to, I'm going to just help for a second. It comes back to the idea of values. He's talking about it there, the values.
Yeah.
So I would ask you, Marie, what would you say is the most important value to you as a human being?
Mhm.
What's that?
To keep silent and just understand the point of view of an artist.
To understand somebody's other point of view.
Yeah.
That's a critical value for you.
Yes. Yes.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'm also
Res-
I'm
res-
also an artist, so like it's also like disrespecting me in a way.
Mhm.
Respect.
And no
having
matter what,
respect.
and no matter what a person's views are, we have to recognize that that is part of their DNA. You can't fight them. Just hopefully help them understand that there might be some other different views in the world, but there's no point in getting a fight because no one ever convinced anybody else through an argument of that sense. Fact and logic don't persuade people. It's much deeper than that if we want to reach across the aisle.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Maria, for having the courage to ask. And it may be that, I can help with this, and I can bring it back a bit to the war in the Middle East right now. I was just recently reading an interview between a Islamic leader and a Jewish leader, a rabbi and imam, and they were both trying to understand each other. Because right now we're in a period of profound misunderstanding in some ways between two great religions. And we know faith is so important for a leader. We had a young woman here as a guest talking about the importance of Islam to her faith. We have Ron saying the importance of his faith, Christianity. In this interview between the two spiritual leaders, they said the worst thing that can happen is when you're dealing with individuals, people who think the only solution is violence. When violence becomes the only way to solve something, we have a real problem, or aggression, or disrespect. But violence, Maria, that's the worst.
Yeah. Anyway,
I've got violently. Yeah. Okay, Ron. Thank you.
Great
He's
to
got to
talk to
run.
you.
Okay, Ron's got to run. 94-year-old Ron's got to run. Please walk, Ron. Don't run.
No, I'll come back again sometime.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Take care. Okay.
Have a great day. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay. Let's come back because we only have about 10 minutes left or so, and I want to make sure we kind of do a little summary of this, and also I'd like to talk to you about some of the reflections that are coming. Wow. 94. How old did you think he was as he was speaking? If you weren't looking at his face, his face looks young. If you turned away, how old could he be? 50s, 40s, 60s. Yeah. So what's the takeaway for you in a class that's exploring global leadership, in which I'm trying to introduce you to global leaders, many of them young, sometimes not so young, to help you develop the skills that will enable you to be more of a leader, ready to take on the whole world and not just Oshawa or Whitby or Ontario, but thinking more broadly. What's the takeaway here for you? Let's make sure we get this in the notes, okay, Dami? Paula? Go ahead. Yeah. Sounds like you found it, right? So Paula is going to come back to Durham College when she's in her 90s, and I unfortunately will not be alive then. I'm going to be 61 this year, so I won't get to see that, Paula. That will be something. Maybe you'll be teaching. Who knows? What's that? Go ahead. So I can hear you too in the mic.
I said, how do you know you're not going to be alive?
Well, I would love to think that way, but let's do a little bit of math right now. Paula is in her early 20s, 21. So that would be 70 years from now or so. If she's in her 90s, that would put me into about 130.
That's possible.
Dami, you are not wrong, because the world that we're living has a lot of people doing research now on, longevity and how we can use medical science to stop the aging. So, okay. I'm going to tell my wife that tonight. Okay. I like that. Thanks. Great. Okay. So the thing that you're passionate about, and that thing that you're passionate about, Paula, is it really about you, or is it about something bigger? Yeah, something bigger. Okay. Oh, thanks, Mujib. Mujib's handing the mic.
I think it's about a community at the end of the day. Like, obviously the cause comes within the drive comes within yourself, but
Yeah.
the cause is external. And if you find one that's going to be relevant for years and years and years to come, and you feel passionate enough about it, then I think you found your thing.
Yeah, you found your thing.
Mhm.
Ivy, what's the takeaway? Is it what Paula's saying, or what did you, as you're listening to this remarkable human being?
My thoughts right now are, you need to separate when you're a leader and you're listening to all these opinions of other people. You need to learn to separate people from their ideas, because people's viewpoints always come from a reason. So there's always a reason behind to why they think the way they do.
Yeah.
And I think once you find that reason, you don't criticize other people. You start to be like, wow, this is the cause. So you need to find the cause.
That's wise.
Yeah.
So a leader doesn't take things
Personally. Yes.
Yeah. God, that's a hard thing to do, isn't it, Ivy?
It's very hard, but honestly, like, we're all human, we're all the same. We all want to be loved, we all want to be happy. So there's just different reasons to why people think the way they do.
Yeah.
Some are more stubborn than others.
How did you learn that, Ivy? That idea of, don't take it personally. If somebody's criticizing you or angry at you or even becoming violent, try to understand more the cause, but don't criticize that person personally and disrespect that person, because that will get you nowhere. That will make it worse. Try and understand where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where I've learned that is just in my life. I've had a tough upbringing with my family, and just different opposing views of, I guess, everything. And nursing really helped me as well learn that as well, because there's just always a cause for everything, and you have to be nice to everybody, no matter what their background is, no matter what they've been through. It's very humbling.
Very
Yeah.
humbling. Okay, we'll keep going around, okay? Because I see Maria, Juanita. Can you hold your thought for a second? And then I want to make sure that the in-person group, and it's actually very good we have fewer students, because everybody can contribute, and then we will conclude. Juanita, and then we'll come to Maria, then Dami, and then we'll come back to Paula. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what she said about a reason being behind your thoughts, behind what everyone else does, I completely agree. I would actually say mindset. Recently I wouldn't say arguing, but my friend and I have been on this topic of mindset. She resists the idea with every part of her being that mindset determines behavior. So I tried to tell her that that's what it is. Now, it's not even a matter of me being right or wrong.
Right.
But there's some concepts that people, like you just say, that you expect to be logical, that, oh, this makes a lot of sense. But she doesn't agree. She just says that's how it is, it's how it is. But the truth is, if you think about it, everything else starts from the mind. Like she said, a reason for what everyone else does. And as a leader, once you understand that concept of mindset determines behavior, you wouldn't take things so personally. You would understand for whatever reason, that's how they were brought up, that's how their mindset has been carved. So, and yours is obviously different. So you just learn how to manage it, I guess. So, yeah.
So would you say a good leader is someone who can actually listen to opposing views, even criticism of the leader, not take it personally, and then think about maybe that person who was criticizing me was really just criticizing something that I'm thinking or doing. It's not me personally. And I kind of agree with that person. Maybe I will change because that person was guiding me, helping me. Many leaders don't seek counsel. They don't like to be criticized one way or the other. But that's not really effective leadership in the end. Effective leadership is listening to people and not taking it personally and maybe changing if the criticism is something you think is helpful. For example, your friend, you and your friend, are you still friends even though you disagree?
Yeah, like,
Of course.
yeah, completely.
Well, what you could become enemies. It's interesting. I think that's character. I think when two people can disagree and they can still be friends, or two siblings can have a fight and they still love each other, well, that's a remarkable thing to be able to do, I think. And I think that's sort of what you're getting at, Ivy. Maria, and then we'll go to Dami. Yes.
It's funny because my brother and I had an argument, and he's realizing how successful I am through my education status. I'm a straight A student in politics. It's what I'm experiencing now that everyone finally understands how much encouragement I have to become a leader, and it's changing my life completely. And it's annoying because like once you like finally found your passion and what you're finally doing and your love, like let's say we play basketball or like talk about the Bible or like you like, play sports or even teach, people get jealous because like in a way like they're not going anywhere in their life because they don't have God in their life. They're angry, they're upset, they're miserable. That's how my brother's feeling, and I'm trying to teach him sibling, hey, I'm not a kid anymore. You don't have to act like my dad anymore. I know how to stand up for myself. I know how to make friends. You have to respect me in the way. If you don't respect me, then I can't be your sibling anymore. That's why. And you have to learn. And I told that to all the players too. If you don't respect me as an artist, you're not getting full attention at all because you have to learn yourself.
You're growing up. You're getting stronger.
And that's what I told my mom. Like she's so proud. I'm like, Mom, it's called adulthood. I'm growing up.
Very good. Very good. Let me get Dami's thoughts and then, but also the fact that you have the courage to talk in class like this. At the beginning of this semester, you were sitting at the back. Now you're sitting here. I don't know if I'm teaching you, Maria. I'm only trying to create an environment where you feel comfortable enough to interact with others and I can guide you. That's what I'm trying to do. Create an environment where you can learn from me and from others. Well, it starts inside you, not me. Dami? Oh, Dami's got the microphone, okay? Go ahead. Yeah.
One thing that I stood by that I really liked when he said was give me a second, let me get the notes. Was when he said you need to have a set of values that guide you. For me, this is something that I believe in. This is something that I stand by because I believe that without a set of values, you as a human being are like you're gonna get lost or misdirected so easily. I believe that you need to have a line that you draw for yourself, like a boundary that you should not cross. And it's gonna be a set of different principles and values. I just believe that without values, I don't feel like you're really doing anything because you don't stand for nothing.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying.
You don't stand for anything.
So that's something that I really agreed.
He's teaching. Look at this. He's teaching. You know, the students wrote in their reflections that they like this board a lot. I think it's because close up, and then so Dami, why don't you write a few things down that you just told us, and then make sure it gets into the notes. You are teaching us. We teach each other here, Maria. See, one thing a teacher has never told you is teaching is a two-way street. I might teach, but I learn so much from the students. And if I don't sense the students are learning, then what's the point of me being here? It's a two-way street. So hold on, and then we're going to finish with Paula and see if there's anything on. Carrie Ann, you want to add? Something. If you stand for nothing, don't. I know where you're going. Anything. If you don't stand for anything, you fall for everything. If you don't stand for anything, you fall for everything, or fall. Once you stand for something, you are like a tree. You're rooted. You don't get blown around. The trunk is firmly planted. It can handle the snow and the rain and everything. But if you don't plant that tree down, a trunk, you're going to be blown all over the place. Yeah. The question is, where are you going to stand? What values? That's something to think about. Where are you going to stand? Paula?
Hello. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna add. I forget who said it, but just talking about like taking criticisms as a leader and understanding where people are coming from. As somebody that's present on social media, I get a lot of criticism for the stuff that I post and the stuff that I stand for. And I've had to come to terms with the fact that a lot of it comes from lack of education and lack of knowledge. So a lot of people don't know what I'm talking about, and they can't empathize with my situation or how I advocate for others because they're simply not knowledgeable on it. So that's helped me like brush off a lot of the
Sure. But
hateful
then how do
comments.
don't you want, in a way, to help them to stand something
Yeah, and
you feel that,
absolutely.
So how do you do that?
That's my job, like just educating in a way that is, I don't know, I say like easily digestible, like easily understood by them.
And you want them to feel respected. You don't want them to feel ignorant.
Yeah,
How do you
absolutely.
make sure.
Well, the worst way to handle a situation like that where somebody's coming at you saying that they don't agree with your point of view is to come back at them. So in like my case, I usually would respond with a comment like educating them instead of attacking them in the way that they did to me. Do you know what I mean?
You have to maybe also try and keep yourself calm so you don't escalate,
Absolutely.
because
Yeah.
it can easily escalate today on social media
Mhm.
into something that's pretty nasty.
Mhm.
Thanks for bringing this position into the class, Paula, because
Absolutely.
you're already there, in
Mhm.
terms of that kind of leadership. We have about 2 or 3 minutes left, and I want to just address a couple of small things, but just more importantly, Dami, Maria, Juanita, Connor's good, Carrie Ann, Ivy, and Paula have spoken, the in-person group, which is excellent. And if there's anything anybody online would like to say, please say it now. Jump on your microphone. Otherwise, I'm going to move on and wrap things up and just tell you about something around the first assignment and the reflections. And then we're going to conclude. Okay? So let's see. I think we're okay with the online group, and we have the camera in the right place. So here is what I have determined should be done to stay on top of everything right now. It's largely because I'm just a bit overwhelmed myself with 202 students, and so I don't have time to assign the first assignment, which was what I was going to do before the break. That's not going to happen. So you're going to have a midterm mark coming next week that's based on the first 2 reflections. That's 25% of your overall grade this semester. So if you got 5 out of 5 on both, you'll get 100% for your midterm. If you got 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5, then it'll be a little bit less. But what matters is what's coming after reading week, because there's a lot coming, okay? 75% of your grade, essentially. But I tried to break it down so it's manageable. Here's what I'd like to do. I would like to continue with these reflections in the discussion post so that it would be reflection 3, reflection 4, and reflection 5 will happen in the second half of the semester, every other week. The reflections will be made a little bit longer. Students have asked for this often, 425 to 450 words, and they will be worth 15% each, not 12.5% each. The final assignment still remains. The big assignment worth 30% will be due in the final week of the semester. And that assignment, there will be many options on that and an assignment sheet coming, but I'm actually thinking of adding to that a project that you would want to create, that you would lead. You would explain what it is in your assignment based on everything that we have explored this semester, all the guests you would have met. You would think back and go, what kind of project would I like to lead? And you explain it in your final assignment, integrating all the knowledge that we've explored this semester. That will be an option for you. It will be worth 30%. So here's what's coming in the second half of the semester. There is no first assignment. There will not be one. There will be this semester 5 reflections and 1 assignment. You've done 2 reflections so far, each worth 12.5%. 3 more are coming in the second half, each worth 15%, each 100 words longer than what you've been writing. Then there will be the final assignment. To help you get ready for that final assignment, in which there will be research and works cited and everything, be like an essay where you're describing either a project, I'm going to start incorporating some research into your reflections that you do in the discussion thread, where you will have to provide one source and a work cited in that reflection, or maybe 2 sources, so that I can start to assess how you're managing research, and then you'll be ready to do a great final assignment. And in that final assignment, you will have a chance to do it as a written, you could do it as a video, you could do it as a presentation, okay? Is that okay in terms of how I've reworked things? So I've blown off that first assignment, I've made the reflections worth more, and I've added more, but the final assignment still remains. So remember, when you come back from reading week, you will have 75% of your grade at stake. So there's going to be more work coming in the second half. Get ready for it, okay? Any questions, you can email me. Otherwise, thank you as always for coming in person and putting together something as a recording that will be terrific for the students watching this as a recording. See you next week, or see you in 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. Great, thanks. Okay, so let me make sure I save the live chat before I do anything that I shouldn't be doing. Open chat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good reading week. Okay, I'm going to stop the stream to do that.